Hi there, inventory planners. Today we're going to talk through how to figure out which items to move from drop shipping to in-house fulfillment. So your first question might be, why in the world would I want to move products that are currently being drop shipped in-house? That sounds like a headache. Fair enough, it could be. But what we're going to talk through today is really evaluating, is it the right move for your business, what to consider, what some hidden costs are, as well as some benefits that you may not initially think about when you're bringing those items in-house. So there are a couple scenarios where we might look at bringing dropship in-house. One could be is if you've started your e-commerce business totally dropship and want to look at taking the next step. It could be that the additional profits because of lower product cost will help you overall with your business. It could be a large enough gain that really makes sense to take that step with your business. It could also be that you're handling some fulfillment in-house and have decided to add on dropshipping products as a way to expand your product catalog. There could come a time where some of the items in that catalog make sense to move in-house so that you can maximize your profits, have more control over those items, what the quality control looks like, and really take that next step in your business to maximize profits. So there are a few critical items that you need to look at when evaluating which items should move from dropshipping to in-house fulfillment. The first and most important will be to figure out your cash flow situation. How quickly do you need to get a return on your investment into this inventory so that you can recoup that into your business and really be moving forward so that you can invest those dollars into something else? You need to figure that out. So does that look like 1 week you need to get your return on investment? Does that look like a month? Does it look longer? You really need to have a good foundation on that. That will drive all of our other decisions as we're looking at which items should move from dropship to in-house fulfillment. The second item to take a look at is sales velocity. This will inform how quickly are you going through product and will help you to estimate what your stock turn will be. Your stock turn is essentially your return on investment. How quickly can you get an investment back from that stock that you're storing? Using your sales velocity, you can say, if we start out with this amount of stock, how quickly will we turn this stock over based on our current rate of sales? So going back to your cash flow, how quickly you need to recoup your investment on this inventory, you can then use your sales velocity to estimate your stock turn. Third, you'll want to take a look at your forecasted profit. How much more will you potentially make by bringing this item in-house rather than drop shipping it? Your vendor is lowering risk by having you pay for inventory up front, so they should be lowering your cost. Is that increased profit and the profit overall on those items enough to justify all of the risk that you are taking on for your business? So you are putting the cash up front in order to pay for that inventory. You are the one who's on the line for customer demand and if you're moving that inventory out. So take a look at your forecasted profit, make sure that it's high enough so that it really makes sense for your business. Remember that we do have a threshold here. It's not just a matter of can we make some profit, we need to make enough profit that really makes sense to cover your other expenses in your business and come out ahead there. Fourth, take a look at your forecasted demand for your planning period and compare that to the minimum order quantity that your vendor has specified. As an example, if we are forecasted to sell 100 units over the next month, but our vendor has specified that we need to order 1,000 units, then that means that we're going to be over ordering by a huge amount and we're going to be sitting on that inventory in our warehouse for several months. Take a look at the gap between your minimum order quantity and really the amount that customers are going to forecast to demand during that time. Finally, we're going to take a look at your variant performance. So if you are looking at a certain style of product that you want to bring in-house, take a look at how each of the variants within that product are performing. In this example, we can see that the black, blue, and silver items are performing much better than the orange one is. So if we're looking at which items to bring in-house, only 3 out of those 4 variants would be candidates for performing well enough that we want to consider moving that in-house and taking on that risk. We know that we'll sell more items, we're forecasted to sell more items, and we'll get a return on our investment that's going to be better than if we brought all 4 variants in-house. So now that we've taken a look at some of the major considerations and metrics to figure out which items are good candidates to bring in-house, let's take a look at some of those costs that are involved in bringing that in-house. So the big one is going to be infrastructure. If you are not already handling in-house fulfillment, then this is going to be a big investment. Definitely talk to people who have handled in-house fulfillment before, potentially talk to a third-party logistics company, talk to other e-commerce businesses. There is a lot of complexity here. It can be done, but definitely do not underestimate everything that needs to go into in-house fulfillment. There are additional computer systems, space, storage costs that come with those spaces, staffing, and on and on and on. So there are a lot of costs here. Definitely take a deep dive into the infrastructure and figure out all the costs that go in there. Then when you've done your homework on all the infrastructure that's involved in this, everything that could be involved, I would recommend adding on another 10%, another 5% in unknown costs. There will be other things that come up if you are starting in-house fulfillment for the first time, that no matter your homework, there will always be something else that comes up. So plan in some padding when you're figuring your costs to see if this will really be a good move for your business and if you have the profit built in to make this worthwhile. The second consideration is your supplier. Maybe you're sticking with the same supplier who's already been drop shipping these items. They will now produce larger amounts of these items so that you can order them and have them in-house. That's great. You already know them. You have a track record. You know what they produce. I would still strongly recommend getting absolutely everything in writing. The timeline for when they will deliver products, what production runs will look like, what the minimums are, specs of everything. Even when you have a good relationship with your supplier, I highly recommend getting everything in writing so that you're both on the same page. Get as much detail as possible in writing so that you have worked out everything ahead of time. There could be things where you have a different understanding of how things will work. Before diving into this project, before making an investment, is the time to have that conversation with your supplier and making sure that you're on the same page about everything so that you are maintaining that good relationship with your supplier. Third, it could be with your supplier that you are looking at somebody else to supply these items. In this case, you definitely need to be sure about intellectual property so that you are not copying other people's product. When you go with a different supplier, you definitely need to look at, is there a way to license this item from the original supplier, or how can you come up with an original design? Is there a change, an improvement that you can make on the original product so that it is uniquely your own and you can cover that with intellectual property rights? So take a look at what's involved when you switch suppliers. It's not ethical to produce the same exact item. You need to take a look at how you can make it uniquely your own or check into licensing from the original manufacturer. If you are working with a supplier on a new product, definitely take into consideration the timeline for testing, iterating, sampling these products. You need to have it physically in your hands. Seeing this product online, seeing pictures of it is not good enough. I can tell you from personal experience, there are just things that you can't tell unless you have it in your hand. So take these into consideration. There could be shipping time, production time, changes that need to be made. Factor this into your project management. There could be several different rounds of improvements and changes that need to be made. So factor that into your costs as well for the entire project. So the final consideration in terms of cost of moving items to in-house fulfillment is to think about your storage fees. So previously you were paying a higher cost to your supplier because they were producing, storing, and fulfilling all of these items. You are bringing that in-house, so you should be getting a lower cost from your supplier, but that also means you have some additional costs. How much space is your product going to take up? Do you need to rent out additional space? What's the cost of that? If you're using third-party logistics warehouse or shipping it to Amazon, there are storage costs with having it sit on the shelf, especially for a long time. You could get into long-term storage fees. So definitely take that into consideration as an additional piece of the cost of storing that item, sourcing that item, and having it in-house when you want to handle that fulfillment. Okay, so after we've talked through all of those costs and consideration and a lot of the work that goes into bringing items in-house, what are the benefits of that? So as I've mentioned, lower costs. You are assuming the risk now for these items that customers will continue to demand them. So your suppliers should lower their costs. You're transferring the risk from them to you, so they should reward you with a lower per product cost. Another benefit can be quality control. So if you were not satisfied with maybe the branding, the way the packaging went out when these items were drop shipped, if you bring that in-house, that can be all under your control. As an entrepreneur, as somebody who is running your business, there's a good chance that you are a control freak and like to have these little details under your control. In this way, you are in charge of the quality control. You can see exactly what's going out the door. So it can really be a nice boost to specialized packaging that you might have, any way that you are preparing or shipping the item, that can really be under your control now. And finally, as a benefit, one thing you may want to think about is, what will this do to your shipping costs? So for stores that are already handling some in-house fulfillment, what additional volume will this bring to the number of packages that you're shipping? Get a hold of your representative with your shipping company, with your shipping carrier, and see if you can renegotiate to get a lower rate. It could be that that additional volume bumps you up to the next tier, or you're really close to a tier, and you can keep that in mind so that you're getting lower shipping costs over what you were paying to your drop shipper. So those are a few of the considerations as you're looking at moving items from drop shipping to in-house fulfillment. It's definitely really complex, especially if you're starting this for the first time and have not been doing in-house fulfillment. There's a lot to think through. So talk to your supplier, get everything in writing. Talk to people who have done in-house fulfillment before, whether that's a third-party logistics warehouse or it's other e-commerce companies that handle in-house fulfillment. There's a lot of complexity, and you really want to be careful about making this stuff. On the other side, it can really be worth it, where you see increased profits, you have better quality control, and you could really come out ahead with that in-house fulfillment.